Hello, my friends. Today we have very bad news that you can only find on my channel. Others are saying everything is under control in the Kursk direction, but in reality, and this situation is rapidly deteriorating several times a day. Just yesterday, we were talking about major Russian breakthrough, and today, reports confirm that Russian forces have regained control of Malalochnya, advancing another 5.5 kilometers. To recap, yesterday, they broke through 9 kilometers near Cherkasskaya Porечное and several kilometers in different directions. This shows that the front here is collapsing quickly, forcing the Ukrainian forces to retreat almost tens of kilometers per day, which is a massive setback. A withdrawal of that scale without losses is simply impossible. The situation is catastrophic, and Russian forces are advancing at an alarming pace. Russia's Minister of Defense has officially announced that they have regained control of Malalochnya, Cherkasskaya Porечное, and Kosytsi. Meanwhile, attacks continue. Martinivka is also in question as geolocation maps already place it in the gray zone, meaning Russian troops are likely advancing there too. At this point, the chances of the Ukrainian forces maintaining control of the Kursk region are minimal. Geolocation data shows intense Russian activity. Russia seems determined to take this area before negotiations begin. Even if the Ukrainian forces are retreating, breaking through the main road is incredibly difficult. Soldiers report that the road is fully controlled by Russian FPV drones. The Yakhnovka-Sudzha road is completely under Russian control. FPV drones pass every 5 minutes. Artillery, airstrikes, and drones are operating at 20% capacity. There is no way to deliver reinforcements, ammunition, or drones. The Russians are using new frequencies. At night, about 5 Russian drone squads are on free hunt mode. Three bridges have been destroyed by Russian drones, even those previously mined by our forces. Russian forces have pushed 5-7 meters into 500-700 meters into our territory near Zhuravka-Basivka. Overall, the Kursk front is collapsing, and as Trump said, Ukraine has no aces left. Now, even the Kursk ace is fading fast. The Ukrainian forces are unlikely to fight for Sudzha if the road is fully controlled by the Russians. Reinforcements cannot arrive, and the existing forces won't hold the defense for long. Technically, the Ukrainian forces are not encircled, but since the road is under Russian fire, a partial encirclement has effectively occurred. I'm telling it as it is. I see no point in sugarcoating things, unlike some media outlets claiming everything is under control. The situation is truly difficult. Whether thousands of Ukrainian forces soldiers can now retreat to Ukrainian controlled territory remains a big question. The Kursk operation was well supplied with a significant amount of equipment, meaning losses in both personnel and equipment will be severe. And now, the logical question is, will Russia, riding the wave of success, push into Sumy region next to establish a buffer zone? They've already managed to make some advances there. Hopefully, the Ukrainian forces can fall back to more fortified positions and hold the line against Russian and North Korean forces pushing forward. Friends, share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on to the Pokrovsk direction, where activity remains high. Russian forces continue the assaults near Udachne and Novoalexandrivka, as well on the outskirts of Pokrovsk. Battles are also ongoing for Lysivka, Promень, Yelizavetivka, and Tarasivka. No major changes have occurred in the past 24 hours, but after a brief lull, the situation is worsening again. Heavy shelling continues along the front line and deeper into Ukrainian territory. There is a chance that if Russia doesn't push further into Sumy from Kursk, they may redeploy their forces about 50,000 troops to Pokrovsk, where their advances have stalled. They need progress here, making this direction a critical focus. For now, the Pokrovsk front remains uncertain, but Ukrainian armed forces troops report ongoing counterattacks near Shevchenko. Our fighters reached the village center from the east. Fierce urban combat is underway. The Russians are using mortars and night drones. It's brutal. We advanced 600 meters, but we have severely wounded soldiers and evacuation is needed. In the direction of Kurakhove, the Russians have almost completely captured Constantinople. Fighters on the ground reported that as of the last evening, they had completely withdrawn from the village. Now, Russian forces are pushing toward Oleksiivka, also attempting to advance through the fields toward Troitsk. So far, there have been no new breakthroughs overnight, but the situation remains difficult. As we can see, although slowly, they continue to advance towards the borders of Donetsk region. In the direction of Velika Novosilka, activity has temporarily decreased. Russian forces are launching attacks near Burlatsk but have had no success over the past 24 hours. The front line has remained unchanged, however, shelling continues at the usual intensity. In the Zaporizhia direction, the Russians are maintaining a high level of offensive activity. Assaults continue in the areas of Sherbaki, Pyatikhatki, and Kamyansk. They are also pushing toward Stepove, while shelling the village to prevent Ukrainian forces from holding the defense. The situation remains very difficult. Additionally, yesterday and today, the Russians have been attempting to break through toward Cherivne. So far, there have been no changes along the front line, but activity remains very high. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue shelling the right bank, but no new attacks on the islands have been recorded and the front line remains unchanged. Now moving to the Toretsk direction. Clashes continue in the central part of Toretsk and the village of Druzhba. However, as before, there are no new changes along the front line and no reports of new Ukrainian counterattacks. In the Chasiv Yar direction, Russian forces continue attacks in the central part of the city and are also attempting to advance toward Bilahora. However, they haven't achieved success and the front line remains unchanged over the past day. In the Siversk direction, no new offensive actions have been recorded so far. However, Russian forces are actively using FPV drones, making the situation challenging despite the front line remaining unchanged. In the Liman direction, Russian troops appear determined to break through as the activity here is at its peak. They assaulting Yampolivka, advancing toward the village of Myrne, and attacking Kolodezi, Zelena Dolina, Lipove, and Novomykhailivka, while also Shalom Liman. So far, there have been no changes in the past 24 hours, but it remains to be seen how this new wave of attacks will unfold. In the Borova direction, Russian forces continue to assault Boguslavka and Nova Kruhlyakivka while attempting to break through near Lozova. No changes have been recorded in the past 24 hours, but the attacks persist. Further south, the situation remains calm with no significant developments. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian troops continue storming Kindrashivka and advancing toward Stepova Novoselivka. However, the activity remains minimal with only a few attacks per day and no significant success. In the Dvorichna direction, they are also launching several assaults on Petroivanivka, but have made no progress. So far, all attacks have been successfully repelled. In the Kharkiv direction, artillery bombardment continues without any offensive actions. The only storming activity is recorded in Vovchansk, where the intensity is minimal, with only a few attacks per day and no success for Russian forces. Meanwhile, Senator Gray stated that Trump is pressuring both Russia and Ukraine to bring them to the negotiation table. Senator Graham suggests providing Ukraine with intelligence and weapons until a ceasefire is reached. If we abandon Ukraine, it would be worse than Afghanistan. I don't think President Trump wants that. Trump is pressuring both sides to sit down for negotiations. It's clear what exactly Ukraine is losing: NATO membership, territory, military support from the US, and more. How Trump is pressuring Russia remains unclear. What are your thoughts on this? Be sure to share them in the comments. I also think everyone has heard about Musk's statement yesterday, where he said that if he had disconnected Starlink, Ukraine would have lost this war a long time ago. Then Poland threatened that if Starlink were disconnected, they would terminate contracts with Musk's company. As a result, Secretary of State Marco Rubio also decided to comment on the situation. No one threatened to disconnect Ukraine from Starlink and say thank you, because without Starlink, Ukraine would have lost this war a long time ago and the Russians would now be at the border with Poland. This was his response to a statement by the Polish Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski, who suggested that the European Union might find an alternative to Musk due to his unreliability. Sikorski responded diplomatically to Rubio's message, but Musk reacted quite differently. Shut up, little man, you pay a tiny fraction of the cost, and there is no replacement for Starlink, said Elon Musk to the foreign minister of the allied country. Overall, with such partners, we don't need enemies, and be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. Meanwhile, Trump made another shocking statement. Listen to the whole thing, and I'll add a few comments.
And he took money out of this country under Biden like candy from a baby. It was so easy with that same attitude. And I just don't think he's grateful. We gave him, in my opinion, $350 billion.
Friends, at this point, I want to stop and ask one very important question. When it comes to such large numbers, why does Trump say he just thinks that? Why can't he provide documents that state the exact sums that were given to Ukraine and how much money went back to the US for weapons? This clearly suggests that Trump is making up numbers that never existed. Otherwise, there would be clear documents and receipts, which, as we can see, are not available. Now, let's listen further.
Europe is in for $100 billion. We gave him $350 billion, and he's talking about the fact that they have fought, and there's a bravery because somebody has to use the weapons. But without those weapons, don't forget, I was the one that gave him the javelins that was able to knock down all the tanks. Obama gave nothing. Look, if I were president, that would have never happened. You wouldn't have had Russia going into Ukraine.
And here I want to stop immediately. Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2014. They took parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, and that happened during Barack Obama's presidency. Then Trump came and did nothing to fix the situation. He supposedly gave javelins. Now It turns out he's claiming that the Russians wouldn't have started the war during his presidency. But here he's lying again, like with his claim about ending the war in 24 hours, because we can see that Trump fully supports Russia. And now, in light of the latest events and Trump's statements, we can confidently say that Russia would have invaded even during Trump's presidency. Only Biden started helping Ukraine, and Trump would have supported Putin. The reason for the invasion wouldn't have been Ukraine's NATO membership, because Trump wouldn't have invited Ukraine to NATO, but the Russians would have claimed rights to supposedly Russian territories and simply tried to take them back. Therefore, Trump is clearly being deceptive, claiming that if he were president, this war wouldn't have started. It turns out that if he had been in Biden's place, Ukraine would have lost even more territory than we have today. And be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.